Hey there, CNCers! Scott here again for CNC Labs. This is part 5, I believe, of the guitar series. I can't keep track anymore. Days are blurring together. This is the tutorial that is going to be all about your pickguard. We decided to try and make one that's a little bit shorter video because, you know, the last couple have kind of taken on a life of their own. As always, I'm going to try and run you through and help you out with some of the things that I've learned through my process. You know, I encourage you to go and take your own journey and learn some things for yourself. But yeah, if you can pick some things up from, you know, my experience along the way, why not? First things first, when I started doing this, I had an existing Telecaster pickguard to measure off of. I don't expect that most of you are going to order a Telecaster pickguard because unless you're making a Telecaster body, you won't really need this. Whew. It was really handy for me though because I was able to get some specs directly from this pickguard. You know, I got some distances of, measurements of a pickup distances, widths, selector pockets, things like that, number of screws. Having said that, ultimately, if you're making your own custom guitar, that's why you're here, because you're gonna have to make your own custom pickguard. So, if you don't have an existing pickguard to measure from, the good news is we're going to give you some files, and that's where I was going with that. So you can use our files and you can modify from ours because they should be fairly close in spec to what you're dealing with. And then you can, turn this into whatever you want to turn this into and you're off and running. Part 2, because this was a standard Telecaster pickguard, I kind of looked at it and went, yeah, it's all right. It's not my favorite thing in the world. So I wanted ours to have a little more flow, a little more, just something else. So design to your heart's content. If you want to make this thing go crazy, you make this thing go crazy. If you want this to be super minimal, you make it minimal. But I wanted ours to have a little more flow, so that's how this, half moon extended into the bridge and then kind of back up here, a little bit of flow. Aces. Part 3 that I kind of thought of was I decided to, as dusty as she is, not put any screw holes beside my neck pickup. It's going to be hard to pick that up. No, that doesn't even get it. Having said that, my neck pickup is going to be mounted directly to the body in the cavity. I didn't want screw holes there. There is forums upon forums of talk about Telecaster neck pickguards and pickups and what to do with them. So if you want some pickup holes in your pickguard, you'll have to make them yourself because I did not include them. Great. I debated on whether or not I wanted to jump right into designing or whether or not I wanted to kind of precursor things and help you figure some things out first. And ultimately I decided if you don't know the position of things and where they're going to go, things being your neck pickup's kind of where it is, but if you don't know where your bridge and all of that are going to line up to and sit, and your selector, designing it is kind of, the chicken and the egg thing. And I went, you know what, let's make a couple of omelets. So I'm going to show you what I did to get my bridge positioned, because that was a factor in the spacing of everything around. Some people have their pickguards really tight to the bridge. I had a kind of Telecaster-esque gap around mine, but unless you know pretty specifically where this bridge is going to go, all of this is just trial and error, which is why I'm here, because that's what I did. And speaking of which, while we're here, what do I got? That's the original one, so that's not mine. But we got part 1, which was obviously just some acrylic I had laying around. So that one turned out pretty good, but it was a little too Telecastery. Part 2, you can see where she started to take shape and had that extra little fin added on. This actually got doubled up because I managed to cut those out twice. Number 3, and this one actually made me really happy. Can you see what that is, folks? Yep, that is indeed cardboard. I ran out of acrylic and I didn't want to buy more acrylic, so I just busted out a fairly thin sheet of cardboard, and if I'm being honest, it carved really nice. Like even the 90 or it's a 90-degree Vbit, but the 45-degree bevel we get on this, it's not like the cleanest thing in the world, but it actually carved cardboard like a pickguard. I was thrilled. That was number 3. And then number 4 again was that one that I modified. Number 5, I found this wonderful piece of, I don't even know what it is. It's like MDF, but not MDF. And then this one I helped really dial it in. It carved exactly how it was supposed to. And then we arrive at this guy, which was supposed to be the one I used, but I actually don't really like the tritone that was there, the black, white, black stack. I didn't want that. So that one's gonna go on one of probably actually those guitars. Let's get rid of these for now. Because I've got one cut out and I've got the same guitar there, so why not finish one? And even if it's a cool wall hanger, aces. So what I ended up going with was, and it's gonna be a little harder to see, I'll get it out of the light, just a, oh there it is. Just a matte black pickguard. That's all it is. There's no tritone on this. Can you even focus, camera? Can you even focus, camera? You'll have to trust me. It's one ply. We'll throw the link in the description, all the things. Let's get to work. Ultimately, again, the reason why I wanted to have the bridge figured out, that's the big one, because the selector kind of can move around. The bridge, if you have it too far forward, too far back, like we're talking kind of millimeters here, and the big, well, not big, but I mean, it's a factor was, sorry, the pickguard, when it goes around this bridge, I wanted a pretty specific dialed in space. And if my bridge decided it needed to go back, you know, 1 millimeter, then that space was going to be thrown off. So I wanted it to be equidistant around there. And that's why I said, you know what, let's get this bridge figured out. So the kind of flashing lights warning on this, warning, advice, whatever you want from what I've seen, what I've heard, what I've gone through is, the ultimate biggest factor when we're doing all of these things is that your neck and your bridge, the ultimate kind of big factor is whether or not your neck and your bridge are center on each other. If the neck isn't centered on the guitar, if the bridge isn't centered on the guitar, that is a factor, but it matters way less than if your bridge and your neck are not lined up, because how are you going to string strings on the things if the things don't line up? So that is part of this process. And then it kind of doubles off into being able to create our pickguard custom to our shape, because ultimately you have to make your own. So here we go. The way we got around this, the way we did it, first things first was I have my neck just placed in place. And I have just a little block of wood at the top of it because I want to make sure that that neck is sitting basically as true as it can to where it's going, it sounded like I said oink, to where it's going to be when we put this sucker together, right? If it's off here and we measure off of that, then everything else spirals off and it's not really great. So I've gone over this about 100 times. It is flush. It is, you know, sitting in the pocket as nicely as it can because of the shape. And I don't know if we're going to be able to see right down in here on this cutaway. There's not a lot supporting the neck from wanting to kind of twist this way. So I've been really diligent and kind of putting it in on an angle, pushing it back this way because there's a lot more meat for it to catch on to keep it in place. Cool. Now, we may decide to fast forward through some of this part because it's fairly, you know, straightforward, but you're going to need to draw, I guess before I stick some tape down, I'll give you a quick rundown. We're going to need to draw some straight lines down here because that tells us where our neck is and our bridge should be centered on that. We're going to draw a center line down the middle of our guitar. We're going to do this on the tape, and the reason I'm using the tape is so I don't mark up my nice body. So then we'll have a center line between what is hopefully the center of our neck. I mean, mathematically it should work out. And then we're going to draw a couple little ding-dings on our bridge. That gives us center line here. And then we're going to know the distance from our 12th fret to our bridge saddles. And I mean, ultimately we have holes drilled in a guitar, so it kind of has to line up with that to some degree. Am I going to be honest and say that my through holes are not perfectly aligned to where my bridge is? I will be honest, and they are not. They might need a little bit of a file, little. We're talking like, I think when I had this mocked up earlier, we're within a 16th. A 16th of an inch on a homemade guitar for a guy who's never done one. I'm gonna call that a victory. So that's basically where we're gonna run through. So we're gonna throw some tape down, and I went right to the neck pocket and tucked it in there. And I went right off the edge of the guitar just because why monkey around? Flatten it out nice. And then I found that I didn't do this strip originally. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna make this pretty. I'm trying to line it up with the bottom of the heel of the neck, and if I can get that marginally cleaner, why not? It doesn't need to be right up to it, does it? It doesn't, but you know what? Let's rip a strip and make life easier. There we go. Because now I'm gonna block the view for just a second, but I can get this tucked in there a little more square. Again, being a little overly picky. Don't need to be this picky, but there we go. That doesn't matter because we're not going to get that far back on the guitar. Make sure that's all stuck together. Not worrying about perfection, just worrying about being able to cover up the body with the tape because I don't want to draw on the body. I know I'm going to do a finish sand on it after this, but there is no need to create any more marks than we have to. Cool. I do know that I'm going to end up cutting out the bridge pocket because that's how I'm going to line some things up. Oh, that's what I missed was my holes. We can do it right now. If you stick your... Oh, can you get that on camera? Oh, that'd be wicked. I don't know if Louis is going to be able to zoom in post on this, but yeah, if you can kind of dimple those out, then you can just use a pencil to punch them out. And that's going to come in handy when you go to line up your bridge. I think this is how I did it the first time. It's how it's working now. Bang, we've got those. Again, I'm going to grab an X-Acto and just punch those in. I'm not worried about actually cutting the whole pocket out. I'm just going to give it a little zipperoo. This just has to be out of the way enough that we can drop the bridge pickup in there. I'm blocking my light so it's harder to see through. Okay, so I'll throw that over there for now. And again, just roll that over the edges just so that it's not in the way. There we goes. Right, cool. The first time I did this, I actually kind of messed up. I only think I had a 12-inch or an 18-inch ruler, and I kind of went from here. And as I drew it, and then I compared it to drawing it from the nut to the base, it was not the same. And you can see that my neck just moved. That's super annoying. I think I may have actually put some weight on it last time. I don't remember, but I'm gonna do it this time. What do we got laying around? I hopefully have enough weight now, so you can see that even after I've done, well, I've only done the mock-up once, but there you go. As I was saying, Louis, you may want to cut out all of that middle section. You're going to go from your nut location up at the top to the base of your neck. All right, so I'm going to pinch it down there because that seems to be the location. And again, that's where the tape comes in handy if you make a mistake. So you're just going to draw your lines down past your bridge because you know your bridge location is going to be past those through holes here. So I draw my line, you know, all the way down to there. Ta-da! Line number 1. We're going to repeat the same process on the other side because this is going to tell us basically, well, it is going to tell us the angle and the location of our neck. So there we go. All the way down. Cool. From here, this is the whole reason we're doing this is to make sure that our bridge and our neck are centered on each other because that's a pretty big factor. If your neck is, you know, one way, or if your bridge is another way, there's some compensation and some amount of correction you can do, but the closer you get right off the bat, the better. So the next thing I did was, I probably used millimeters because they're a little more specific. And I found out where the center of my neck was. Now this is a lot harder when you're working in the dark, but according to this, we're talking what, 18.6? I'm going to go 2.8 to the middle and I am going to 6, 7, 8. Right there. You're never going to be able to see that on that camera, but I have now drawn a mark right in what should be dead center of the neck, right? That's what we're measuring from. That's the reason we're doing it. Center of the neck. Great. I made a mark there for the middle. I need to make a mark here for the middle because we need to draw a line for the middle. So you're going to make a line between these two. This should give you the center line of your neck if you've done things right. And again, I'm just going to draw it all the way through, even though we don't need it that far. The outside line's for our neck, and now our center line of our neck. This is the kind of whole reason for doing this and talking about this is, again, the position of your bridge is going to ultimately affect your pickguard, and that's what we're doing. So now you're going to drop your bridge in. This is when this step should have come in. You're going to kind of eyeball line up your holes, and you're going to draw your dashy lines there and there. If you're not aware, and you've never heard of it, then congratulations for making it this far. Guitars have scales, that's their length. And their length is typically determined from the face of the nut to the bridge saddle. In this case, we're at 25.5, and that's what we have here. The other way to measure kind of roughly placing your bridge, if you wanted to, is to go from your 12th fret to your bridge saddle. It should be double from your nut to your 12th fret. So this should be basically equidistant. 25.5 should give you 25.5 should give you what? 12 3/4? 12.5. So it's pretty freaking close, man. And that's using a crappy tape measure just hanging in there. So we're pretty, is it 12 3/4? 12, 24, 25.5. Yeah. So we're basically where we need to be. These have some flex, springy, right? So you can mess with that after if you want to. You can see that because we have our center line, the easiest way I found to center this onto that is to get out of the light. And you can see on this piece of tape, there's on the front there's a dash line. And on the back, same thing. That is the center point. We knew this was 80 mil from all the previous endeavors we did with holes and such. So throw a piece of tape down, mark your center point, drop it in your pocket, and literally, now we've got our center of our bridge, we've got a center of our neck, and now it's just a matter of making sure our spacing is correct here. Because I measured from my 12th fret to my bridge saddle, and I'm sitting right in that 12 3/4 mark, there's some room for play, room for margin for error. Here's where you can now basically decide where you want your bridge to sit. Obviously, I have some flex room here. You want them to line up with those holes as best you can. That's kind of it. So, I mean, the last thing I was trying to do was square up my bridge to my neck, making sure, because, well, yes, it's lined up this way. It should keep it square. I just wanted to make sure. So I took a measurement from here to here, here to here, and the measurements were the same. The last time I did it, I don't know if they are this time. I found that I think 4 1/4 was my measurement last time. I lied. My measurement was 4 5/16. Aha! Now I remember. Why did I do that? Now I forget. Because I remember when I marked that, it was 4 5/16 to those dash lines, and that was great. Let's have a look. Let's just slide it into place. Oh yeah, that's right. That makes sense. Does that make sense? Uh-oh. Pause game. When I drop this in here. Oh, maybe my spacing wasn't equidistant the way I wanted it. That's pretty stinking close. And it's pretty stinking close because apparently I actually knew what I was doing. So I think that's about it. I feel like this should go on longer, maybe just because I'm so used to talking. Either way, we'll get into the Pickguard stuff next. Sorry guys, I'm running through my process. That's the basis of it, right? You want to make sure that your centers are centered. I know I've said it about 100 times, but that's kind of important. The distance front to back matters to a degree. As long as you're pretty close to that 25 3/4, you should be all right. The guitar experts out there will probably look at me and say, Scott, you don't know what you're talking about. And I will reply with, you're right, I don't. But I do know how to measure and make stuff work. So we're pretty close to our 25 3/4, 25.5, sorry, our 12 3/4. There we go. That's about it for getting your bridge in place. You can, if you want to, you can just go right through the tape and just mark your holes because then you know where it is going to be. You can do that afterwards if you're not comfortable starting your pile of holes now or marking it up. If I'm being honest, I forgot to do it the first time around because I was so concerned about this and the Pickguard. Common sense to me says I can probably put at least a mark there because once I peel the tape off, then I'm going back through the same process, right? So at least if I put some marks on there now, I will know I can line up to those marks. Hopefully everything is square to itself and centered on itself so that when we go to actually put some strings on, you know, the strings are going where they're supposed to, not like way over here, and you can't play a guitar if it's doing that. So that would be a big bust. That's about it for setting up your bridge. There's lots of good info online. I didn't want to just default to saying, go look at Google and figure it out because that's not what we're here for. I want to teach you guys some stuff and I've gone through some of the legwork. So that's pretty much it. Draw your necklines, draw your center line, center up your bridge, line it up with your holes. You should be pretty close. Make sure that you're around there. If you're not, then you really change something because if you're using my files, they're already set up and I know they work. And if you're not using my files, then you've made a dimension change that I can't take credit for. We are now going to bump over into Onshape and Vcarve to start tinkering with this. A lot of it is honestly just kind of measuring, regurgitating, and punching in numbers. Again, making this whatever you want. If you want cool flames, make it cool flames. If you want super, just like something minimalistic, like a silver tone or something, knock yourself out. So let's go jump over into Onshape and I'm going to show you what I did there. And then we're going to carve one of these suckers out and that will be the end of this short video. Let's go. Alrighty folks, here we are over in Design Central Comfy Chair location. We have our bridge in hopefully its home location and, you know, hopefully we got that right. We're not gonna really know until we put strings and things on it, but here we go. I'm gonna show you quickly, hopefully, how I ran through my Pickguard kind of designing and manufacturing-y process. Quick and dirty, we already have the body shape that we've cut out of a piece of wood, so why not use that information that we have in Onshape? So I'm going to go to the body edge fillet and I'm going to suppress that. And I'm going to do that to get all those sharp edges because that, without the radius, is the external side of my body. From there, I'm going to left click on just the surface. I'm going to right click and I'm going to export as DXF DWG. Rendering reduced, get out of here. I'm going to call it whatever I want to call it. I've already done this, so I'm not going to redo this. DXF is correct. You're going to hit export and everyone's going to be off and racing. So Onshape is now doneski. We're going to hop over into the V-carving. I don't think there's anything fancy. I mean, yes, I'm going to do the same thing I've done throughout the series, and you think I'd learned my lesson by now, but apparently not. As you can see here, I have my original kind of starting point with an image in the background, and then, you know, the iterations of where I decided, let's inset and mess around with the thickness of that. Let's, you know, start to add the swoopy and then, you know, some tweaky iterations. So for this version, we're just going to fire over into this sheet right here. And I started with importing a bitmap of it says a 56 telly, which I don't know if mine was from a 56, and quite honestly, I don't care, but it had dimensions on it, which is the important part for me. Unfortunately, because of the size of the document, it gets a little bit skewed and a little bit crunchy. So this is where I used what I'm calling like known features. So I know how wide my bridge is. I know some of the spacing, things like that. So I scaled the image till I got one thing that I knew was correct. Ultimately, that doesn't really matter because you're going to go and measure stuff anyways, and you're going to use Onshape. It's basically just a guide. That's all it is. The biggest part of what I used it for was just the swoopy line here because I didn't really know what it did. Everything else is going to come from a known element or from Onshape. So that's that. You can import your image just as a base reference point because ultimately you're going to have my file to start from, and you know that my file is pretty dialed in. So you won't even maybe have to mess with that image unless you're starting from scratch because you created whatever you wanted and you're following my process along. In order to get the shape of the body so that I can offset it to make the shape of my pickguard, you are going to import that DXF we just exported from Onshape. There it is. OpenSki. Yes. And I'm just going to select everything and just drag it off to the side for now so I don't have any weird overlaps. And I'm going to join all my vectors that are open. Now they're closed and we're good. We are not going to need any of the stuff up the gut because this is the wrong shape. It's the shape of the pickup, not the hole around the, you know, the actual cap. We don't need the wire guide. We don't need the bridge pickup hole because that's not a factor, and we don't need any of the other stuff. So goodbye. This is what I messed up last time. I was trying to kind of talk about what I did on this sheet over here instead of just doing it. And now I'm just going to do it. So let's pretend from scratch that this isn't here and it's just my reference. You would not probably copy it to another sheet, but you can. It's up to you and your comfort level. I'm going to just because I have lots of stuff going on and I'm trying to keep it simple. And I did it again. Bugger. Your document set up. I do this every project. I just ignore this factor. So yeah, you go into your job dimensions. Here's my original pickguard material. I spec'd it 290, 420, 2.2. That's what we got there. Material surface, XY datum's good. It's one-sided because it's a pickguard. And okay, so I'm not even going to do that because I already know mine's right. I am going to do what I didn't do last time. And I'm leaving this here as reference for myself because I don't like forgetting stuff. So we're going to move this over. You've got your sheet like this with your, well, you've got your sheet like this, technically speaking. I don't really know that that image is super necessary other than for drawing this swoopy, but that's how I did it originally. And now that I'm going through it teaching people, I don't think we even need to worry about it. So the image is there just as like a reference thing. I've used it for like my whole lifetime with like 3D modeling side of things. So that might just be an old habit that's antiquated now. I don't know. What I think is going to make more sense is you're going to grab your vectors that you have in there. And I guess we should just center them to the sheet for now. The reason I have it way down here is because your pickguard is this size, I do this all the time, don't I? Yeah, you can't see what I'm pointing at. Your pickguard is the size of the pickguard, and so I didn't carve it in the middle of the sheet by accident. That's why I had this way down here. So realistically, I'm actually gonna leave it there so I don't make that mistake. You've got your outlines. This is where my known parts comes in. You've either made your own neck from following along with me, or you've bought one. Either way, you have a known something to measure from. Mine happens to be 56 mil wide, so I drew a 56 millimeter wide. 56 by, it really doesn't matter the height, it's just to give you a reference, so let's call it 80 just so we know which one it is, and we're just gonna click, right? Oh, it has radius corners. Sorry, square corners. We're gonna get radius in just a minute. So you've measured your neck, it's 56 wide or whatever your neck happens to be, and you're going to create it. Cool. You're going to have that obviously over here, and realistically, and this is where there is just a little bit of discrepancy, I guess, between Onshape and Vcarve. So while this is supposed to be 56 mils at its widest point, I don't know that it actually is. So we're gonna grab the rectangle, we're gonna grab the body, we're gonna go to the align selected objects, and we're going to center them. Now, that isn't necessarily representation because like I was talking about with the bridge, they're not necessarily centered, the body and the neck, right? Very clearly they're not. That's okay. So in order to create basically the neck pocket so we can center all of our things off and it's a ripple effect, we're going to separate out this neck pocket line from our imported vector. And the way we do this is we copy Control Z, and do a lot of things these days. Control C, paste, Control V, it will be right in front. And then I went over to the transform or the move selected objects, and I picked an arbitrary number to move it in any direction, because if you try and start clipping and cutting right now, it's going to be a mess. So I just move it down. Let's call it, I don't know, what's 25? 25 mils is an inch? Sure. Apply. Up. Whatever. Just so I have a number that is known. So when I finish trimming this out, I can move it back down and it's in the exact right location. So now that we have that, we're going to go N for node edit mode. We're going to zoom in here and we are going to right click. We're going to delete the span. We're going to slide to the other side, right? The other whoop, of the pocket. Right click, delete span. And then if you get out of node edit mode, just hitting N, you'll see that we've created a little gap and a little gap. That's really great because now we can go delete to the main part of the body. We don't need it. We now have a separated neck pocket, which is awesome. And then we're gonna go back over to our move selected and we're gonna go -25. So as long as you remember your number, you're good to go. Apply. Cool. This comes in super handy because here's my 56 millimeter wide neck. Again, my dimensions are here. Oh, did I mention that already? I can't remember if I mentioned it. Bugger. This is what happens when you do multiple takes in the same video. So if I didn't mention this already because I redid this video, if I didn't mention it already, because I'm redoing it, then I'm gonna mention it now. I created a layer right here called notes. I made it a fun color so you could notice it. You can lock it once you do all your things. Again, I feel like I already said this, and if I did, then Louie's gonna cut it out. And if I didn't, then now you know. That's why I did that layer, so that I can come over here and I can see all of my dimensions and I don't have to guess. I don't have to remember. You could write it down, but it's right here in your face. So I made my 56 mil wide neck. I'm gonna now align it to my neck little pocket guy that I made. So I'm gonna, oh, sorry, I gotta select, hold on. Scott's clicking like a madman. You're gonna select your neck pocket that you made. You are going to grab, you can see that there's a little highlight there, a little dashy dash, and now you're gonna center. Aha! And realistically, because we do want the bottom of this to line up at the bottom of this, I believe it's this one? This one. Aha! This guy right here. So now we have it centered. There's our hypothetical neck pocket, neck, all the things. We have our hypothetical neck pocket here, and now we're just gonna start building off of our known objects. That's how I created this thing. It's not rocket science, it's just how I did it. It's definitely not rocket science if I did it. Cool. So if you hold down Alt and Control, the Alt will constrain it and the Control will copy it. So double clicky, Alt, Control, constrained and copied. Now, this is the second time I did this, so you can change the width if you want to, but if you change the width, it's going to squish the box down. It doesn't do it from center, it does it from bottom left. So then you have to recenter that part. Let's not do that. We want to make this 13 mils tall because that's the space we need. So we're going to hit apply. And then we're going to grab, again, I guess you don't need the spacer in there. You could just draw your pickup and line it and drop it down the total. I just like having like constant reminders. So I'm going to grab these two. I'm going to align them. And I believe it's, oh, I don't know at this point. I'm guessing always. That guy, wrong. That guy, wrong. That guy, wrong. There we go. I may make a couple extra clicks here and there. So either way, we've got our 13 mil spacer. Again and again and again. That's why I had these layers, and that's why, again, my file wouldn't have looked like this as I built it. It would have looked like this. So I kind of dropped things in place and I didn't have to guess what they were. Now I know that my actual pickup hole is this kind of capsule. I didn't, again, need the rectangle, but I drew it in there just for giggles. If we know that it's 15 by 65, which we do know because that's what it measured out as, you draw a rectangle right here. And you can call it 65 width by 15 tall. And you can radius the external side. You can go internal, it'll go, you know, chompy chompy, Cookie Monster. Or you can go this way. I went this way because that's what it is. And again, that's what I was talking about earlier. I totally guessed, and it just happened to be half of the height radius, which is great because it could have been, you know, there could have been a little flat spot in there, but there wasn't. So you're going to hit, yeah, sure, we'll do it this way. There you go. You made your pickup hole. And again, same thing. We're just going to align them. There's lots of different ways to do this, but I'm going to center that on that. And then I'm guessing, holy cow, that one to that one. What is that? That is that. So this is that. There we go. So there we go. There's our pickup. And the same thing, I knew, well, maybe not the same thing. In order to get to my bridge, again, I drew my original bridge, which was, what did I say? 80 by 90.2, 95.2. Whoop, 80 wide by 95.2. It is square because that's what it is. And then I'm just going to drop it in there. So that is my original bridge, right? Now, I'm going to align that in just a minute. No, because I'm not going to change. Yeah, I am. It doesn't matter. I messed, and this is again why that bridge placement is, sorry, I'm working through my own internal fight. This is why having that bridge placed is so important. I found as I went along that in order to keep this pretty gap consistent all the way around, I needed to know where my bridge was. So ultimately, I ended up actually designing a whole bunch before I did that, which is why I did that for you guys, and now I'm designing, because it makes more sense, in my opinion, after going through the process. Ultimately, I found that I needed 107 millimeters from the base of the neck to the top of the, sorry, I guess it would be, yeah, it's the top of the cutout in the pickguard. That's what this is, right? So your pickguard comes around and then comes up, around. So that's what that is. That is actually the pickguard, this line right here, right? It's not, so your bridge is the other one. This is the original size. So my 107, that's how I got to that number, was because I have my bridge placed and I was able to actually measure. I'm not going to lie, there were still 5 iterations. It still took me a couple tries to get it dialed in, but that's why I did that. You can grab your neck pocket and again, double clicky, Control Alt, drag it down, go over to your rectangle, change the dimensions to 107 tall, which works for me. It may not work for you. Apply. And then we are going to align those. So again, I'm going to select that 107 one I just made to my neck one, go to my align, and let the wheel begin of guessing. This one? That looks like that. Did I get it? I think I got it the first time. Yeah, I got it the first time. Small Friday victory for me. But now I know that from the heel of my neck to the top of my bridge, which is where I need it to be, sorry, not to the top of my bridge, to the inside cutout to go around my bridge is there. So technically speaking, sure, we can align these, right? But it doesn't really matter. So it's centered, And oh man, this one? Yeah. That's not where, so this is my bridge obviously, but this is actually going to be minus 1.5 millimeters because that's where my bridge actually sits. And I wanted 1.5 millimeter gap around there. So that's what that is going to give me. You don't need to draw that in there, but while you're figuring it out, that's how you're going to come to that conclusion, or that's one way to come to that conclusion. Cool. Again, personal taste is going to be huge in this. You can see from when I was monkeying around up here that I had this way skinnier. And then when I started drawing the screw holes to go through, I'm like, oh, that's skinny. I don't like that. It looks like a weird bat wing or something. So I said no, and I went wider. So yes, create sharp corners. Doesn't really matter because there's no sharp corners to worry about. Select new. I'm going inwards. That is 1/8. I already did the conversion, and you're gonna hit offset. This is what I did. I apologize. Obviously, we have it offset by 1/8, which is lovely, but this isn't gonna work, and we need to get rid of a whole bunch of stuff. So we can go into node edit mode, and I'm just gonna flat out delete that span. And then you can kind of pick somewhere down here, right? You know from a Telecaster that it goes just above the top there of your selector plate. So if you came somewhere down here and you just grab one and where's that squiggle? Give me the squiggly line. I think that's what I'm waiting for. Yep, that's the squiggly line that I keep missing. Zoom in, there we go. Just delete a span anywhere along here just to break that up. Get out of node edit mode. Select this guy because we don't need any of this anymore. Goodbye. You can see how it's starting to come together. We're gonna go back into node edit mode with this one, and it's totally up to you. For me, I was comfortable with just saying, you know what? Close enough. Really and truly, you could add a point and then, you know, stretch it out. So you could just go boink and add a point because then you know you're not changing anything. And you could drag it out and then you could right click and shouldn't there be smooth in here somewhere? Smooth point, see, there it is right there. What if I do this one? Smooth point. Ah, because it's an end, it won't let you do it. I apologize. There you go. So you could smooth your point and you could, you know, drag this a little bit so it's a little bit more archy. Archy, that's a good word. All right, follows the arc. As long as it intersects here, it doesn't really matter because we're gonna create a path for this side, and then we're gonna create a neck pocket. So as long as you're through there, so we have something to trim to, that's great. That was the kind of awesome easiness. Now we're going to do the swoopy over here. Again, you don't need to drop an image in there if you don't want to. If you do, you can as a reference. What I do, and I meant to do originally, was if this is my bridge and I know that there's a 1.5 millimeter gap that I'm trying to maintain all the way around, I am going to offset this by 1.5 outwards. I can keep sharp corners because I'm going to go and change the radius anyways, and I'm going to hit offset. So that's where the pickguard's going to intersect with, right? So we're going to draw our swoopy. It's going to come here and it's going to hit the pink one wherever you want it to. But that's why that gap is there. So that's why we created that. I am not actually even going to bother. Ugh, that's not what I wanted. You could copy or, you know, import your image and you could, you know, scatter it around to get it, for the love, placed roughly where it needs to be so that you can then trace your outline. That was how I did it originally, and then when I traced it out and I went, I don't really like the look of this Telecaster thing, I'm gonna do something different, that's where I did something different. So we'll leave it in there for now, and I'm just gonna grab this, and again, I'm just gonna start drawing. The first point you drop is just gonna be a drop point. If you're drawing circle-y, archy, wavy things, the less points you draw and using those curves, the better. It just makes it smoother. So I know that it's gonna end up somewhere, you know, way back here. So I'm gonna draw one in the middle and just click and drag. That gets me my handles. If you don't drag, you won't get handles, you'll just get a sharp point. And then I'm gonna bring another one down here and drag it again to get my roundiness. And because I decided to take mine up over into here, I'm gonna do the same thing. So I'm gonna click inside here and drag, and then whatever this is, it really doesn't matter as long as it intersects the one that we just offset. So I'm gonna click and drag and create the little swoopy that I had that I liked, and then I'm gonna right click to end the command. You're probably gonna wanna go in and refine that, so you can hit N to go to node edit mode, and you can monkey with these to your heart's content. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because this is 100% personal taste, and truth be told, it doesn't matter at this point for me. So there we go. That's how we drew our outline. Exit node edit mode. This is our selector pocket that we have, and we know that the relationship of it to the outline of the guitar body is correct because that's where it came from. We also know that where the bridge is going to be is correct. So we kind of have to center the plate that's offset around this. You know, we don't want to take this and move it because this drawing might be skewed. The dimensions might be wrong. I know this is a known factor for me. I know that it needs to be 32 mils across. So if I copy and paste it and then go back into my rectangle, I can just bump it up to, whoa, 83 mils. Okay, so maybe I can't recycle it. I can't recycle it. That's okay. We're just gonna start from scratch. So I deleted the copy I made. Here's my original. We're gonna use this for alignment purposes. We can't use it for dimensional purposes. So you're gonna go up to your draw rectangle. You're gonna call it 32 wide. Oh, excuse me. I'm putting myself to sleep. I can't imagine how you guys feel. I know from speccing mine that it's 32 wide. It is 160 long, but that doesn't matter because it's not going to matter. And the radius is half of what the width is, which would be 16. And I'm going to, you know, I can create it wherever I want, sure. There's my, that's the size of the plate for the selector pocket. I'm going to align it to my pocket, and I can use all the centering for that. And now, again, I'm ignoring the drawing. Actually, let's just get rid of the drawing because it's just messing with my groove now. You can leave this pocket in here, just don't select the wrong thing when you go to do it later if you want to. But you know that this is your plate. Now, what I found when I was monkeying with mine was that the top of my selector plate ended up being about 5 mils higher than the top of the bridge. So if this is where, or sorry, not my bridge. I say bridge, but I meant the pickguard. It ends up being about, I wanted it 5 mils higher. I think I actually had it at 7, or it was 7 in the original one, and I didn't like it, so I bumped it down a little bit. So for giggle's sake, we can take our new one and we can align it to that pockety guy that we made. Where'd he go? This guy, the offset. But we want to align this guy to this guy, and then we're going to move it up. So I don't like this game anymore. Nope. 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 There we go. Oh, I see. Inside to inside. Oh, yeah, my brain doesn't function like that. Either way, we've got those two lined up, and move it to wherever you want. If you want it there, leave it there. My only advice is to make sure that you have your, again, you're probably going to cut a dummy out of cardboard or, you know, a thin piece of something. Just, you're going to want to, you may want to tinker with this. I think I had enough space to have it pushed back this far, but I can't remember. So I'm going to move it up to where I know mine was. I mean, 5 mils, not much. So I went 5 up, apply, and that's where mine sat. Cool. Again, going into this, if you're expecting to hit it right the very first time, I have my fingers crossed for you and the force is with you. The reality is you're probably going to make a couple, so you may end up tinkering with that. I think we have all of our building blocks in place, right? Oh, we need screw holes. We'll get to those in a minute. Let's trim some stuff out. Ultimately, you need to create, oh, it's way over there, a pickguard out of this. So you have some known reference items and you have some things that are useful. For mine and standard, I think, I don't want to say all, but a lot of pickguards, you know, the outside edges like these guys, here and here, are beveled. So if you use a 90-degree V-bit, you get a 45-degree angle. That's kind of what the standard is. You can go out and buy a specialty bit, but I don't see any need to. And Andy may have corrected me when I said, hey, do we have 45-degree bits? And he said, don't you mean a 90? Because half of it is 45. And I just crawled into a hole and pretended like I never said it. So those will be 90s or 45s. And then the pockets here and around your bridge and your selector pocket and your neck pickup will be downcuts. You can use upcuts, you can use corn cobs, as long as it cuts it out and leaves you a nice surface, knock yourself out. I used an 1/8 inch down cut. So let's start with the outside V-bit, which is this guy here. So we'll create it first and then we'll assign a toolpath to it later. We're going to need to trim here and here, because then the pocket one's going to do this and this and this, and this and this and this, and this and this and this, right? So we want this to be 90'd, this to be 90'd, and this to be 90'd. So we're going to go in and use our interactive trim, and it's going to make a bit of a mess because we got a couple things here, but if we trim it here and then we get rid of that part there, we've made an intersection. And that is the wrong one. I trimmed to the wrong one because we do actually want it to extend past a little bit because that's the angle of our neck. You could always sand that back a little bit, but if you imagine having to sand back this whole line, that's a bit of a pain in the rumpus. So I guess I could have made this rectangle a little bit smaller to represent the 56 that's across the widest point. Probably smart, but I was in my own world working and it seemed to work. Trim, come down here. We want to trim to our offset because this is our bridge inside here. So we're going to trim that guy out. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. Trim. And you'll see it gets rid of the whole thing. So here's our bridge, the inside one. Our offset is the outside one. And then we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to trim to here. That'll get rid of that. And we can get rid of that piece because we don't need it. And last but not least, I think for this one, because this is our inset path, we want to trim there and get rid of that. And now we've created the very first part, which I believe I called the outside 90, which probably, does that include this one? I don't remember. We're going to find out. Seriously. Yeah, it did. Wonderful. In which case, we're still going to need our scissors. We're going to have to come back in here and we're going to have to trim, and that's pretty stinking close. I mean, you can trim right there and then get rid of that. And you know you're good to go. It goes all the way around and we'll just trim off this little chunk because that's where we want it to end. And now we have our first and only outside 90-degree V-bit toolpath. In order to create the rest of the things we need, we're going to, oh, I didn't radius that. Oh man. Okay, I apologize folks, I thought I did. So that offset path that we did for around the bridge, we're going to go back into our settings and we are going to radius the external, and 16 is way too much. I think something like 2 mil. Apply. That works because our bridge also has a radius on it. If you really want to, you could measure it and spec it. I can go into my other one and see what it was maybe. Will it still let me do that? It's a toolpath, so I don't think it's going to let me do that. Oh, look at that! Or is that the original one? I don't know. Either way, I wanted a radius on that because it looks nice around there. So in order to create this inside toolpath, again, interactive scissor trim, and you're going to get rid of this piece, right? Our pickguard is starting to take shape because there's that. This will be one toolpath. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to do the same thing with this guy. We're going to trim out the whole bottom because now we have another toolpath. It really comes together quick at this point, right? This guy's going to be his own. And this guy, I guess you can trim it out. Did I trim it out? I think I may have just left it, but at this point, I'm going to actually squish this box down because it's just making my life difficult and it's just a placeholder. So I'm going to squish it down like that because that's my widest point. What did I do with this? That toolpath goes to there and to there. I think that's all I did. I think I just trimmed off the end. So I probably added a point to this. I went to node edit mode. I would have added a point, insert point, and then I would have just deleted the one that was way up here because he is no longer useful to me. Delete point. And now I have, again, you do need a certain amount of overhang on these, so that's why I left it a little bit past and didn't trim it right too, because you want the down cut or whatever square end bit you're using to go past this 90-degree bevel because it does actually kind of hang out a little bit. So we're pretty much done, as awesome as that is. So we're going to assign some toolpaths. So you would select all of that guy. Whoa, big fella. Why did you attach stuff? I don't like that. Huh. I think this happened to me when I did it, and I forgot about that part. So the good news is you can go in to node edit mode, and you can go here and you can cut the vector. Cut vector. I believe I'm going to have to do it over here as well, and you're going to right click and cut the vector. Let's make sure that worked. N. There we go. So we now have a tight point here. Again, we're gonna have to We're gonna have to draw that down a little bit further, because otherwise when your Vbit comes into here and this comes to here, there'll be a little bit of material left right on the corner that doesn't cut through. We're going to take care of that in a minute. Actually, we can take care of that right now. Node edit mode, grab your vert, and this is just constraining, so holding Alt and dragging down. Grab your point, constrain, drag down. And then we're gonna have to do the same thing over here, right? So we're gonna grab this guy, we're gonna zoom in on just that point, right click, cut vector, right click, cut vector, and all it does is just basically take those two verts and snip them, or it takes the vert and snips it into two. So you don't have to worry about like overlapping and weirdness. It just works. So we're gonna get out of node edit mode. Now we should have a path for that, a path for that, a path for that, and we are off to the races. So, as I was saying, you would select anything that you want to be that 90-degree Vbit, 1, 2, and 3, and you would go to your, this is where things go a little sideways. I don't think I used a Vbit path on this, if I'm being totally honest. Let's find out. Yeah, I used a profile. Why did I use a profile? Okay, so once you have snipped your vectors and created the separate individual little path guys, we're gonna have to go in and we're gonna have to extend that guy down again, constraining with Alt, and again the reason we're doing that is when the down cut goes through and the 90 Vbit goes through, it will clear out the material around here, not leaving you with a sticky corner of material still left together. Now, I do recall when I did this, and I don't remember if I did it accidentally or if I did it on purpose and it just, and all the things. I did not create the Vbit paths that are here. I didn't use the Vbit engraving. I used a profile. And I'm trying to remember for the life of me why I did that. And again, I don't remember if it was an accident that just worked out or if I did it on purpose because I did a test and I didn't like it. Either way, I did end up using a profile toolpath. So I selected you guys will select the lines that you want to be Vbit paths, and you'll hit profile. And at some point, I hope it comes back to me. I can't remember if it was because you need to have, let's find out. Vbit. Calculate. Yeah, I think that may have been what happened. I think I chose Vbit and it was saying, because they're open, we're not going to cooperate with you. And I went, I got to work around. So instead of that, I had my line selected and I went to profile. When you go to profile, you can choose whatever bit you want in here. It's not how they're meant to be used necessarily, but this is also, a little bit different. So for giggles, just follow along. Cut depth 2.4. My pickguard is 2.2. I feel like in my experiments, I wanted to punch through just a little wee bit more, so I went 0.2 millimeters deeper. That's one of those warnings that's going to pop up. In my passes, 1/16 of an inch, step over doesn't matter, 18,000, 50, 12. This one was good at 50 and 12. Remind me of that, because when we did the pocket or the down cuts, it was way too fast and it actually melted the plastic and it was just a bit of a pain in the butt. It cut fine, but it didn't work. 50, 12, okay. You can go, again, because it's not expecting you to use a V-bit, you can go inside, outside, or on. Inside is what I chose. If you want it to be a little bit wider, you can go outside. If you want it to be, all the things, you can go on. And I did add ramps like I normally do. That looks like 1/2 inch. And because I wanted this to be the first thing I carved, it got the A delineation, all the things, and then I hit calculate. This is the one that we've talked about before, where you can have multiple individual vectors. And it's just giving you a warning saying, hey, they kind of need to be stuck together before we're going to use them. It's cool. Hit OK and watch what happens. and then it's going to tell me it's too deep. And I'm going to say okay, because I'm okay with that. The good news is I'm going to ignore that this original toolpath existed. I'm going to go back into here, and I'm going to deselect, and I'm going to reselect the ones that I actually want to go. And I'm seeing an issue already. Does anybody else in the class see an issue? You can see from my preview that my pickguard is not going to carve properly because it's off of my sheet. It's again why I probably drew that bounding box to keep me in line. So I'm going to select those ones. I'm going to hit calculate. It's going to say the same thing. You have to join the paths together. It doesn't actually join them. You can say okay. It's going to say it's too deep. I'm going to say okay. And now at least we're going to see what happens. So this is why, again, you can use a Vbit with that profile. It's just a little bit unorthodox. Ta-da! Right? And you can see that it is just barely slicing through there, which is exactly what I want. And if you change to inside, outside, or on, it will change the location of where this goes. Unorthodox, yes. Works, yes. That's why I did it. Let's go back in our 2D view. And again, this, I hope for you guys, is fairly common sense at this point, that you can see it's going off your sheet. Select everything, double click it, and then move it up to where everything that you want to be in your pickguard, right? So there's some space, there's some space. There's enough room in there. I double-sided tape. I used CA glue and painter's tape to stick the sucker down. It worked really well. I cut out 6 of them and I didn't have a single one of them move. It's such a small, light material. It buzzes through it, no problem. So as long as you make sure that the parts that are getting cut out also have some stickiness to them, right? So you can't just put a strip here and like a strip here and expect it to work. I put strips here, 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 and here so that there's some stuff sticking this down and some stuff holding the outside down. I'm gonna have to go in and recalculate this because I've now moved it. Yes, yes. And I'm gonna reset my preview and then we're gonna go there. And now we're within our pickguard material. That's that. I didn't do the screw holes. These are very straightforward. It's just drawing a circle. So they are 3 mil for my screws. And I didn't just place them. I'd be lying if I said I just placed them. Let's draw 1, so we have 1. I would have taken anywhere I wanted a screw to go, and I would have taken those paths. I offset them inwards by, I'm guessing now because it's millimeters, not inches. 1/8 of an inch seem right? Let's call it 1/8 of an inch just because I know what the metric conversion is. Offset inwards. There we go. And then see, some of the paths are going to be funky. So if it goes the wrong way and it goes back out, you'll have to grab that one and make it go inwards. I use this strictly as a spacer. That's what this is for. So for argument's sake, let's undo that. And I'm only going to select just 2 of them that I know are going to go in the right orientation. You would obviously grab your outside one as well. And we'd go to offset. I would say inside by whatever dimension, however far you want these spacers to be. That's all of this is give me an edge of where the screw hole is going to be. So I'm going to say 1/8. I'm going to hit offset and I'm going to hit close. And then I would have grabbed the screw holes that I'm trying to make. And again, I honestly just arbitrarily placed them where I thought it would look okay. So I mean, obviously you're putting it right here, you're going to be in trouble. So I left a little bit of space. I may have looked at the Telecaster one to see where they were. I think they're on there. Yeah, they're there and there. It's screw holes. Put them wherever you want. That's kind of how I look at it. As long as you got enough to hold it down. So again, you can hold Control to copy it. I'm not worried about constraining these ones unless you're really trying to line stuff up like along here. You could line it up. So I just dragged them wherever I wanted them. And I had the outside edge of the circle touching the inset path. So, right? Just so my spacing from the edge is even. Not that I don't care, but like, I think when I did the one across here, I probably would have constrained it and copied it across so that at least they were lined up. Same with this one, right? Alt, Control. Oh, maybe not the same with this one. Definitely not the same with this one. But again, put them wherever you want. That makes sense. I think I only have one up here. As long as it's touching that edge, I was like, you know what, that's good enough. Like if you want to put 2 in up here because you want to really make sure it holds down, put 2 in there. Freedom is wonderful for this. That's I don't want to take any longer than I have to. So there we go. We've got some, sorry, I didn't copy it. There we go. We've got some screw holes created wherever, however many you want. Obviously you're going to draw your inset so that you get that. Oh yeah, because that's going to be my actual pick guard. I tricked myself. Okay, fine. I'll just do it for the love, Scott. Right? So this one has to be outwards, not inwards. There we go. Yeah, I would have put it right in the wrong spot. Do as I say, not as I do. Oh, that would have really upset me. So I'm glad I did that and made that goofy mistake on camera, because now you're gonna go, oh yeah, I'm not gonna be like that guy. Right? Because this would have made the screw hole right at the edge of my pick guard instead of insetting it like I was literally telling you guys to do. So again, wherever you want them, if you want it right in the corner, cool. Now you can delete these inset ones if you want to. I did because it was gonna confuse me and I was gonna select the wrong thing. You have created your screw holes wherever you want them. If you want them at the side of the neck pickup, go ahead. I'm not doing it. I am going to screw my neck pickup directly into the board, into the body, because I don't want to see screw holes any more than I have to. It gives a nice clean look. If you want to be able to screw your if you want to be able to screw your neck pickup in through your pick guard, you'll have to create some holes. So you can either do it here and kind of guesstimate, or you can cut out your pick guard like this, put your pickup in, flip it over and mark those holes, and then just pilot hole them and then drill them back through from the top. Again, lots of websites out there, lots of information. That's what I would do, because then you're not guessing where it goes, you know where it goes. Same for these as for the outside 90s. I used a profile on these. So you guys will select all of yours. Select, however many you want to do. I think mine came with 9, however many I got on here. You would go to Profile. Now, again, ignore this part because I'm going to double click on this and it's going to bring up mine over here. I'm going to go now and say, no, don't use those ones, use these ones. So that's all I'm doing. I'm reassigning the toolpath to these instead of those. There we go. Again, 90 degree, ½ inch. Start depth was 2.2. Why did I do that? I am assuming for the same reason that I used a profile with the outline, because I just wanted to go zzz. Now why I said start at 2.2 is kind of a mystery to me, because that's the thickness of my material. I guess that gets me through my material. So that's why I did it, and it doesn't go any further than 2.2. It just goes down. What we're learning here is that I haven't learned my lesson about doing stuff, recording notes, and then recording how I did it, because this is video 5 and I'm still making mistakes because I did this a week ago and I've already forgotten. So just trust me that it works because it did. I didn't do anything else. I'm eating my words. Louis, cut that part out. Is there like a shameful music I can play right now? Because I didn't even pay attention. So anywho, yeah, you're going to select yours and you are going to go to Vbit, Vcarve, engraving toolpath for this one. And when you do that, it's going to bring this up. Ignore me while I reselect and reassign mine. Oh, baby. And now that I have that done, wonderful. 50, 12, 16th of an inch. Aces. I'm feeling very defeated right now. I'm not pleased with myself for not remembering these things. You're going to hit calculate. It's going to say, it's going to go deeper, and you're going to say, okay. I did tinker with this setting to get it to poke all the way through, because that's all I really wanted to do, is just kind of get through a little bit. And then if we preview the selection, you'll see why this worked out so nicely. Ta-da! Why is that one over? Yeah, you'll see why it works so nicely when I actually did what I was supposed to do, because apparently I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Why does that look so funky? I lined all those ones right. Oh, bugger, that's why. Because whatever I offset it by wasn't enough, because I'm working in millimeters, not inches. Holy jumping, I'm sorry, folks. Well, I mean, again, I'm showing you 150 ways not to do it. But seriously, that's a really good point to bring up. Make sure that when you preview, you check your preview and make sure that things are set where they're supposed to be, because if you leave it like this, that's going to look like Garbuli on your Guitarzy and you're not going to be happy. So that's just a matter of having that path inset far enough so that it actually gets inside there. Personally, I'm kind of okay with this. I don't mind how skinny that gets. It looks nice once it's in there. Obviously, those aren't so good. So you'd move those over. you go back into your toolpath and you could, you know what, you're not going to go in your toolpath. You're going to just go in here and you're just going to move them. You still have to recalculate it, but you'll move them in a little bit more. And again, you can re-offset that path. Come on now. I really should re-offset the path to make sure that I'm doing this equidistant, because that's why I did it in the first place. Now you're going to go back in here. You're going to calculate again. It's going to tell you you're going to cut through the material. And unfortunately, I have to reset my preview. And now let's see if there's screw holes. And what does my pickguard look like? It's still not far enough. Ah! Look at me go. Okay, well, I think you'll be able to figure it out. And in my actual file that I've already worked all these kinks out, this doesn't happen. This is what happens when I redo things on the fly. You understand the gist of what I'm getting at is create an offset, make sure it's far enough over for what you're about to drill out, and then you're good to go. Oh baby. Last but not least, we have the Pickguard pickup. Pickguard pickup, oh, they're over here. We have the bridge, Pickguard neck and selector. Neck and selector. And we have the bridge right there. You will go in and whatever order you want to do them in. Let's start with the Pickguard pickup. So it's obviously telling me that one, and I'm going to say I agree. We're going to do that. Again, 1/8 inch end mill, down cutter. Whoop, not the number of passes. This was too fast. So I will change this for you guys. That I will drop back to 50, because when I did it at 50, it cuts through, it sort of melts the plastic, but it doesn't melt it so much that it rebinds back to the pickguard. It snaps right off, but at 50, it just cuts it and doesn't melt it. So aces. I'll change that to 50, and then again, the plunge rate, I think I'll probably put it whatever. I think the other one was 12, which is a really weird number. I'll go to 15. 1/16 of an inch, okay. I do want to go inside this one, so I'm going to go inside. I add ramps. I want this one to go third, and I'm going to hit calculate, and then I'm going to say something else. Yes, it's going to go through, possibly go through. You can, when we go to save them, group A and B and C, D, and E together. A and B are the 90-degree V-bits. C, D, and E are the 1/8 inch end mills. So if you're comfortable and you want to group them together, I actually ended up doing that. I'm not sure why I had them separated at first, probably because I'm used to running paths separately, but I think I did end up saving them out that way. So let's go in our preview again, and let's go preview selected, and that cut all the way through. That's wonderful. Next, Pickguard Pickguard neck and selector. Again, you'd grab your paths, which is going to be this guy and this guy. You're going to go to your profile. You click on it. When you click on it, you would get this cut depth 2.2, because that's going through our Pickguard. I'm going to reassign mine right there and right there. Same settings. I'm going to change that to 50 and 15. Okay. Ramps. Again, the order of these is pretty inconsequential as long as you know what you're doing. Calculate. Because they're not joined, it's going to join them for you. Yes. Great feature. It might cut through. Okay. Preview. There we go. So now here's what you'll see what I'm talking about. This is why we extended it down and extended it down. If we would have left it right at the vert that exists right here, it may not have cut all the way through, and then you're like going through with a utility knife and screwing around. That's no fun. So I just made sure I overcut. This will trim through. Same here. Same with up here, right? It's just extending. Oh, see, that one didn't go all the way through, so I will actually have to extend that one past. I would have. Again, my working file is great already. And then last but not least, our bridge pickup. 2.2, same settings. I'll change them in here just so you can see, and I said I did it. Okay. Again, the order doesn't matter. Calculate. It's going to cut through, and then we're going to preview. And that is about it for this. So again, to recap, make sure that you extend them past so it'll trim through. Make sure that you offset. If you care about them being equally spaced inside, I did. Make sure it's enough that they're not going to do this funky little, overlap. You're probably going to have to tinker. Again, I found that my bridge I was going to say my bridge and my pickup, but it's the same bloody thing. My bridge pickup, I needed to shift it up and over a little bit, and that will be reflected in my file, and that's what this little note is here, right? Oh, sorry, this one here. Because otherwise I was going to have to shift other things around. Like, it didn't make sense to me. Like, I'm not going to shift my neck pocket one way to compensate for other things. It's easy enough. My bridge is where it's supposed to be. My neck is where it's supposed to be. I'd rather move my pickguard a little bit in either direction to make sure it fits custom. And that's exactly what I did. So we got to save our files. So again, you can save these two together because they're both 90s. Save, visible to toolpath. This is probably the first time I think I've ever actually saved more than one toolpath, but it worked out really great. And I mean, I knew you could do it. I'm just paranoid. Save your toolpath wherever you want to do it. G-code version 5, and I did the solo one because I did a test and it didn't work, but there's my A, and you can just call it 90. You call it whatever you want, but as long as you know what you're doing, you're good to go. You'd hit save. Same thing. Select your other three. Because they're all the same bit, it'll let you do it. I don't know if you've seen this before. If you haven't, you'll get a nice little warning, and I'm going to show you this. If you select two different toolpaths, it will not allow you to, because it's a tool change, and it says, hey, you can't do that. I'm sure I'm not sure. I bet there's a macro or somebody's out there figured out how to do it. I haven't done it yet. So either way, save your three that are the same, hit save, put them wherever you want. Again, I just saved mine as C because I knew that was that one. Boom, close, save your work. And that is it for my tutorial. I might watch this back because I feel like I lost some steam there in the middle. I don't know if it's because it's Friday afternoon and I needed like a little sugary pick-me-up, or I don't know what. Maybe I'll do it again to see if it's any better. But next we are going to go over and actually carve this beast out on the machine. As you see, I already have carved it because I got bored waiting to do the tutorial, and order of operations went for a total tank. But we're going to cut to some footage of me cutting this thing out, and then the tutorial will be done. And you'll be happy because this one was way shorter than the other ones. So stick around for some cutting. Right, up until now I've been footage of it, and I actually have to make it work. I don't think there's plastic on this side. No, that's the back side for sure. Nope, I don't need to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, I could clamp it, but also it's not the end of the world, and I probably put way too much on that first one, but it's all mine for the day. Try something for the first time ever though. That's way too high in the wrong spot. And the good news is it doesn't really matter if this is like bang on because
the beats just
that, and now we're going to run this file. If you want to turn it on, then we can get started. So, I probably, it did. Oh, I can smell it. I mean, this really sucks because this just went from like a 2-second job to 20 minutes. The fridge thing, right? It looks kind of junky. I'm not worrying about it, that's for sure. Yeah, that's nice. They do a damn good job, but it still needs a little bit of help. As long as I'm sanding the backside down, then Louie's not going to put any of me playing with the screen on here. I'm going to start again, cut that part out. Truth be told, the biggest part of it that I'm not going to say it. I need to slow down a little bit. So Louie's going to cut that chunk out. Louie, you're going to have to cut that part out because I screwed up. It will be, I don't remember. It's always a guessing game. Inside edge? Nope. This one. Nope. This one. Nope. Louie's going to cut that part out. Or I'm just going to say, hey, Louie, we're going to cut a part out and we're going to start from that part. How did I do this? Sorry, Louie. Louie, we're going to do the part where, you filthy bugger. See? Well, the good news is, what's the good news? I love you, Louie.